I said I was going to make this video on one of the podcasts the other day. I done a mini cast on kind of looking at negative things in our environment, and it was entitled "Why We Want to Watch Things Die." That's a line, paraphrase of a line from a Tool song called "Vicarious." I recommend listening to that song. I recommend listening to those lyrics. I done a mini cast because I wanted to do this video. That's the type of topic that a lot of the videos I've done have been more in relation to over the years, or over the last year or so. And I sat down earlier and I actually recorded a video. This video, had it almost done, and I got on a tangent, and I thought that tangent would make a great podcast. So I decided to not pursue that, delete that video, and start again. Negativity in our environment is a complicated thing. You know, where it comes from is just as important as how it affects us. With the podcast, I've done a lot with social media and discussing social media. So this will be brief. But between the algorithms of social media and the people you have on your social media, that will determine what you see on your social media. YouTube, Facebook, algorithms are a big thing. These algorithms are used to help advertisers, but they can also very much influence what you're going to see and what becomes a part of your either your news feed or your recommendations. I wondered for a long time if the world was just that negative, and that's why, because that negativity is completely and totally detrimental to people. And there was two factors for me leaving social media, and two things I had to learn to deal with before coming back. One was how addictive it was for me, and that's not going to be true for everybody. I know people who very much can just ignore it, but I'm not that way with anybody. That's not a knock on social media. If anything, that's a weakness I have, and I can't blame them for that. But the other thing is the negativity that's on there. And is that negativity there because we are a negative people, or is that negativity there because of the algorithm and something I've done? Well, YouTube makes for a good kind of trial area, because with YouTube, it's all about me and my preferences. My YouTube was never negative. In all honesty, it's hiking videos and music videos and funny videos and podcast videos, but I never pursue the news, especially what I consider commercial news produced by organizations out to solely make profit. I never pursued that or news of any kind, really, on YouTube. I would do some research, and sometimes there would be times where the algorithm, you would open up my YouTube and it would be nothing but Charles Bukowski poems being read, or you'd open it up and it was nothing but Deftone videos, and you'd open it up and it was nothing but people, jiu-jitsu videos. It's often it would concentrate into one topic, but never a negative topic. So the algorithm is simple. The algorithm on YouTube is affected by how I search and look for things, what I like, what I share, things of that nature. And I had no negative, really, influence coming from there. But other forms of social media, I did. And the first thing you do is you make sure, almost like an exterminator, that you eradicate every trace of politics from your Facebook. That's hard. You set out to do that. You'll only get about 65% because no matter how good of friends you have and no matter how much you agree on things, you'll still have friends that will still go the political route. But you have to make the conscious effort to get rid of that. And news, like I don't follow anybody like CNN or Fox, MSNBC, anybody of that nature. I don't see as much negativity with local news things, so I do follow some local news organizations, at least, or the individual people, the individual reporters, and that's worked out pretty good for me. I've not, because it's okay to get breaking news and information as long as it's not skewed a certain way. So social media becomes this negative thing, and it's impacted me negatively, and I realize, fight the algorithm. Well, I fight the algorithm and the negativity's still there. That's when I realized the negativity is coming from the people in my feed. Not all, but some. And, if you just delete everybody, then it's not like having social media. It's not that I'm opposed to a different point of view. That's a completely different thing. It doesn't even have to consist of a post that's political or ideological or religious. It's not that. It's just a negative post. It's someone who has a negative, sad outlook on life. And I've been one of those people at certain times in my life. But I don't want to be, and I want to work to be better, and I want to work to do better. And I don't want to be stupidly optimistic, and I don't want to be pathetically joyous to the point that I'm blind to negative things around me. I don't think the world is perfect. I'd like for it to be. That's not going to happen. That's not a negative statement. That's a realistic statement. Perfection doesn't exist in nature. But the potential to do better and be better does. And I can't remove all negativity, but I can influence things more positively for myself. And there's no way that I could be a positive influence on somebody else if I can't influence myself positively. Now, I wondered, and I looked at some statistics, and it's like this. To me, some topics are best discussed purely statistically. Some topics are best discussed purely theoretically. And some topics are best a mixture of both. I don't think that there's a conclusive statement statistically on how negative we really are. Because if I'm being fair, there's a lot of statistics that say we're pretty negative, but there's a lot of statistics that say we aren't. And they almost balance each other out, which would seem right to me and puts us in a point to where it's kind of a meet in the middle situation. It's not every person, everywhere, everything that's negative. It's certain situations, certain people, certain areas, dependent upon the time. We'll give you a very generalized, very simple version of this. This is something that I think has always been there and been just as big. People say the divide now has gotten so great. No, the ability for each individual person to express their part in the divide of politics has become more prevalent, but it's always been there. That is to say that from the founding fathers, and there's a lot of literature to back this up, the division between parties has always been great, both publicly and politically, in office. And throughout, especially modern history, the disagreements between political parties have been great and been vast, just as vast as they are now. The difference is, in order for someone, the average person, to express that that feeling was often considered rude because you didn't, especially at the dinner table, you don't discuss religion, politics, blah, blah, blah. But for a person to have an opinion vastly different from someone else and to express it, you could express it face to face. Maybe you could protest something of that nature, but you really couldn't do much more than that. You didn't have a really large voice. Now, with social media and the very public lives we live, everyone has the ability to have a very large, very public voice. And that's becoming a trend. That's becoming the it thing to do, is for that voice to be politically charged and politically based. So the dislike, the disdain, the distaste coming from one side to the other has always been there. It's just not been as loud as it is now. But the negative aspect of that would be, well, we're in a much worse place than we used to be because of that. That people used to get along more, used to agree more in politics, used to be more civil, but now they're not. Well, they were never civil, really. But the people had less of a voice. And that's a good thing that we have more of a voice. It's a very good thing. It's what we use the voice for is what matters. But some people are always stuck in this negative ideology. And having explained that kind of, or looking at that background of politics and how we've always been, a good example of that is during a presidency, no matter how good a president is doing, his detractors, the people on the other side, will always denounce him for what he's doing. They'll always have a negative. They always find the negative in what is going on. And vice versa. His supporters, regardless of how bad he's doing, will always find the positive. It's how it's done. It's how it works. And the parties use that negativity. And I don't, sometimes it's unwillingness to educate oneself, and sometimes it's just simply the massive amount of information that's given. That's all you have access to, and it's negative information. Despite that it's negative and that it's not good for us, political parties use it. They use it for fodder. They use it for kindling. They use it to help strengthen the fire. They use that negativity. And they use the negativity more often than they use the positivity. Now, in the case of politics, it could be because there's very little positivity when it comes to politicians. They are vile people, almost unanimously. Some people would say that's a negative outlook. I would say it's a statistical fact, but regardless, they always seem to pull towards that negative. When we look at entertainment, does violence outsell romance? Statistically, I don't know. But I know what fear-mongering groups would tell you. They would tell you, yes, it does. And it desensitizes people. And that is true. That is true to some degree, or I'm a very different person than other people. I say that because I'm squeamish, and people who are a lot nicer people than me, I've seen them watch things I can't watch, and gore and things of that nature, just excessive violence and things. An 80s action movie, yeah. A gorish horror movie, no, I can't do that. So, but I've never really been exposed to that throughout my life. So maybe it is a lack of being desensitized, or maybe it's just that I don't have an ability to handle things of that nature. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily mean that those things are negative entertainment, but they get a connotation of negative entertainment, that we're pushing a negative agenda with entertainment of that nature. And statistically, I can't sit and tell you that that's not true. There's not really a whole lot of data that I can find that represents that, unless I'm looking the wrong way. But I can tell you that there's information and entertainment being put out that is very negative, that we're looking at as positive things, such as the news. There's also entertainment being put out that I myself have always considered to be negative. Some things that, to me, I felt like as a culture we should just, completely turn away from. And then I look at the statistics, and maybe I'm wrong. Let's take, I thought I wrote it down. There was a show on MTV, the Teen Mom Show. And I remember when I first seen the show, because my wife had that experience. She was a young mother. Before her senior year, she had my daughter, our daughter, her daughter, technically my stepdaughter, but I consider her my daughter. So, to me, telling that story is very important. And I thought, well, that could be a good thing. Then I seen the way producers were portraying these girls and the situations they were putting them in. And I seen, to me, something that very clearly showed, this may blow your mind, and you may be one of these people. Reality TV isn't real. It's very scripted. And it's obvious that they're pushing these girls, in my opinion, to do things they didn't want to do, things that didn't truly represent them or how they felt. And you see the fallout. You see girls who struggle and have issues, and you see relationships that are strained, and you see girls who find fame, and then that's their sole focus after that, even more so than their children. You see a lot of negatives come out of that show, and I just, to me, I thought, man, I don't know why we enjoy that as a culture, and I still don't. I do not understand why we watch and enjoy that as a culture. The reality TV in general, the Kardashians, I can't understand it. It's unimaginable for me. But in regards to the Teen Mom Show, I heard an interview with Dr. Drew Pinsky. And he says the statistics show, and I checked this, the teen pregnancy is down. It's down pretty substantially. And any kid that was born out of teen pregnancy, it doesn't mean you're a bad thing. But maybe your parents could have done better for you and gave you better. If you could promise me it was the exact same kid, I would love for my daughter to have been born when it would have been easier to be parents, and you could be better parents. Because when me and my wife first got married, I was a horrible parent. I was extremely young and stupid, and just, I wasn't what she needed, and I definitely wasn't what she deserved. But to lower that rate and give young girls and young men often, not every young dad walks away, the opportunity to be more on their feet and to be better parents and to have the time to get some life lessons, that's a good thing. And a lot of people believe that show had a very large impact on that. I believe it could. Even Dr. Drew mentioned some very good points on how, kids actually look at that, take that in, absorb that, and I could see that. I think also sex ed in the education system, social media with things get in the 50s. If you lived in the suburbs, say, of a larger city, and your daughter got pregnant and you had the money, you could send her to live with your sister and send her to an institution that would keep her until she gave birth to the child, and the child would be put up for adoption, and then afterwards she could move back. It was a matter of shame, and it was a matter of disappointment, and it was a matter of negativity, and so it was covered up. And with the world we live in now and how connected we are, that's hard to do, and I think that plays a large role in the downsides of teen pregnancies. So this is something I looked at as being a negative, and possibly it's not. It is a negative because it negatively affected a lot of those kids' lives that were on that show. It portrays a negative image. It puts out not to say that being a teen mother is a negative image. That's not for me to say. But I do not think it was an accurate representation of those people and who those people really were. It emphasized the negative of those people because that's what made people tune in. So there's two sides to every coin. You have to be willing to admit that there's the possibility you're wrong. There's the possibility I'm wrong. But I feel like our entertainment and a lot of things, much like our social media, does have a negative skew to it. I know that our news has a negative skew to it. One of my favorite examples of how people, individuals, can affect you when it comes to negativity. A year or so ago, we had a pretty rainy summer, according to everybody. I mean, it's all anybody talked about. And it was raining a lot. Then we hit this patch of warm, beautiful, dry weather. I don't know how long it was, but I do know for 2.5 weeks, we had hot, dry, beautiful weather. My son and I enjoyed it immensely. He's not much on heat and sun, but he likes to get out and play and go to the beach and stuff like this. We had a good time. Then it rains one Saturday afternoon, just for a couple hours. The ground's a little wet, but at the time it's raining, somebody very, very close to me says, it's all it does is rain. You make plans, they get destroyed. You might as well just sit in your house and do nothing living here, because all it ever does is rain. And I said, what about the 2 weeks of beautiful weather? What about those days? That tells me you didn't appreciate those days, because we need the rain. We needed it bad. It's not all blacktop where I'm from. Things were getting dusty, and we needed the rain. The grass needed the rain. The trees needed the rain. The wildlife needed the rain. Sometimes we as people need the rain. So when it rains and I look at it and I go, man, it's raining, it's muddy, because it has been a lot for the last couple of weeks. Instead of concentrating on that negative of it's raining, try to look at the positive of, if it rained all the time, if there hadn't been beautiful days, if there hadn't been good days, if there hadn't been days that I enjoyed because it wasn't raining, then I wouldn't know to put a negative emphasis on the rain. See what I'm saying? If there hadn't been good times, then I would have no reason to worry about the bad times, because that's all I'd know. It's hard to be positive. I'm not positive all the time. I'm not positive nowhere near as much as I want to be positive. That's the thing. I'm not anything any different than anybody else, and I'm not sitting there trying to portray myself as that. I'm just saying there's things that are around us that I'm saying this because I'm as guilty of this as anybody. I've been that person that's found every negative in every single thing. It's so easy to do. But if you acknowledge it and you notice it and you recognize it and you look at it and you attack it, then it's null and void. I want to train jiu-jitsu. I have trained jiu-jitsu over the last 2 years, going on 3. I've had a long hiatus. Jiu-jitsu class is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm either not in the state, can't get back to the state in time for class at 7, have been financially unable once or twice. There's been a lot of reasons why I couldn't go. I could easily look at that and go, there's this thing I want to do. You know, I'm watching videos and goofing around at the house by myself, and I want to be in here with my friends training and getting better. It's something I like. And that's being taken from me. I'm not getting that opportunity. I could do that, but it wouldn't be truthful. And if you're going to be truthful with anybody, don't be truthful with yourself. If you're being facetious with yourself, then you have no hope of making progress at almost anything. Now, I could take the alternative view and go, you know what, if I really wanted to do it, I'd make time to do it. That's what I'd do. Well, that's not realistic. I mean, it is in certain circumstances, but it's not realistic in this circumstance. I like to do 5Ks and I like to hike, and I'm not in the best shape to do either one of those things right now. And those things don't require the people above me who have higher knowledge than me. Those things require nothing but me and my legs, and I have the opportunity to walk and train and do more. And I don't. And that's one of those situations where I can go, you know what? If I wanted to do it bad enough, I'd do it. And to be rational with yourself too. You can't be, that's not being positive. People would look at it and go, well, you know what? If you really wanted to do it, you'd find a way to do it. No, that's not being positive. That's being negative. Being very negative. Now, in the long term, yeah, if it means that much to me, I've got to find a way to make a change in career, a change in something. But in the short term, it's an inconvenience. It's not something I can be extremely negative about, and it's not something that I can put a negative emphasis on. It's not something I can beat myself up over. That's just a small example. Book sales. I'm not famous. My book's not New York Times bestseller. Why would I write another book? It didn't reach the expectations that most writers set for themselves, or at least most people perceive that writers set for themselves. See, to me, it did exactly what I wanted it to do. I had this inside of me. I got it out. I'm satisfied with that. It served its purpose, and I'm proud of that work. I'm proud of what I've done. The next one won't be a bestseller either. That's not being negative. That's being realistic. It's not written as a bestseller. It's written as what I write, and it's made to be a representation of the art I make. And the art I make isn't New York bestseller type art. Not to knock that art in any way. And that's not being negative. That's being realistic in a lot of ways. That's being positive. That's putting a positive look on how I really exist and what's really going to happen. Positivity is extremely important. We don't always have to look for the bad, and I don't think that we always do. I think it's hard statistically to tell. I think better than half. I think better than 3/4 of us actually are more prone to positive thoughts. I think it's that little thing I always talk about, the vocal minority that are extremely negative. And it affects us in a negative way. It makes us feel bad to see negative things. And that's why we notice them more often than other things. So maybe the solution isn't trying to stop and cut out negativity. maybe I was wrong in that first analysis. Maybe the solution is to emphasize the positive. The news always opens up with the most horrific thing that happened that day. And they build off of it. It's the first, most important, largest, most focused on segment. And they build off of it. And they build off of it. And then the ending. Well, the ending is that feel-good story. As the credits go off and the other anchors are laughing, and you're already turning the channel to go to the next program. That's when they stick that positive in there. Focus on that positive. No matter how small it is, it can outweigh that negative easily. Like and subscribe to the page. Share the YouTube page if you want to. If you don't. That's about made a horrible political joke. If you like it, please subscribe and share. If you think anybody would enjoy it. I know this is a long video, but everything I do is long because I talk a lot. If you like the videos better than the podcast, I hear you. I'm getting the no, I don't know why it's not showing views. I don't have a clue. It doesn't matter. If you like it, you watch it. That's all that matters. The podcast is Talk Junkie. The YouTube page is Jay Perkins. The Facebook page is Author Jay Perkins. I believe Twitter, or maybe at Perk213 or at JPerk21. I don't know. I'll get that. You can find me. If you really want to look, you can find me. If you live in Eastern Kentucky, all the books are available at the Red Spotted Newt. If you don't, then you can get it on Amazon. But if you do, go to the Red Spotted Newt and get it. Thanks. See you next time.